I'm speaking broken English. I don't speak speaking in a kind of...
Exploded by a huge earthquake.
Where's the line? I've been on the wrong side most of my life. You know? And everyone's got to move this side, but we'll give you that side.
Had to evacuate. Without their homes and lands. Without their homes and lands. And they have been confronting circumstances. They have been confronting. Cannot see, feel it. People cannot see or feel it. Unfortunately, Prime Minister Noda, he operated oil reactor in July 1st.
He operated oil reactor on July 1st.
Right now, people in Japan
are
against and struggling with Japanese government.
Are against and struggling with the Japanese government
And its state project. What is the point in common? Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Fukushima.
What is the point in common with Hiroshima, Nagasaki, and Fukushima?
That is nuclear weapon, nuclear power plant.
That is nuclear weapons and the nuclear power plant.
And power structure.
And the power structure.
People tend to do things. Weapon and electricity.
Separating.
But those are actually the same thing.
Those are actually the same thing.
Those are symbol of.
Those are symbol of.
Disgrace of technology and science.
Disgrace of technology and science.
Which strongly belongs to military-industrial complex.
Everybody, you're right.
Say it again.
Which strongly belongs to military-industrial complex.
Which strongly belongs to the military-industrial complex.
Bureaucracy and capitalism. Additionally, having U.S. military base.
And recently,
Industry.
you must say no to nuclear industry.
And abolish the authority and imperial social structure.
Nuclear power industry
was born from the nuclear weapons industry. Atoms for Peace was started in 1953 as a way to make nuclear weapons acceptable by making them into power. All nuclear power plants are nuclear weapons factories. That's why Israel is so upset about Iran. The fuel cycle for bombs and plants is identical. The nuclear scientists on both things are identical. In order to keep nuclear scientists on weapons working, they have them work on nuclear power plants. Many times, unaccounted for. That's the word they use. Sometimes they can figure out that the plutonium ended up in another country. So do you still believe there's no connection
So do you still believe that there's no connection
between nuclear power and nuclear weapons?
between nuclear power and nuclear weapons?
Indian Point makes hundreds of pounds of plutonium each year.
Indian Point makes hundreds of pounds of plutonium each year.
And H-bombs
In H-bombs,
to bring the masses of tritium together
to bring the masses of tritium together,
to make the hydrogen bomb explosion.
to make the hydrogen bomb explosion.
The effects of ionizing radiation
The effects of ionizing radiation
have been known for 100 years.
have been known for 100 years.
Pierre Curie died from radiation poisoning.
Died from radiation poisoning.
His wife Marie Curie
His wife Marie Curie
continued his work,
continued his work,
and she died from radiation poisoning.
and she died from radiation poisoning. People
For over a century.
for over a century.
Look up on the internet,
Look up on the internet,
BEIR report.
BEIR report.
That stands for
That stands for
Biological Effects of Ionizing Radiation.
Biological Effects of Ionizing Radiation.
Cool.
Cool.
There have been several of these reports.
There have been several of these reports.
The U.S. government and various universities
The U.S. government and various universities
will combine brains
will combine brains
to study
to study
the biological effects of ionizing radiation.
the biological effects of ionizing radiation.
They always put a pro-nuclear scientist
They always put a pro-nuclear scientist
in charge.
in charge.
After a while,
He
becomes anti-nuclear.
He becomes anti-nuclear.
When physicists and medical doctors
When physicists and medical doctors
talk to each other about nuclear radiation,
talk to each other about nuclear radiation,
it shakes their world.
it shakes their world.
They become anti-nuclear.
They become anti-nuclear.
The nuclear physicists find out what they're doing to people.
The nuclear physicists find out what they're doing to people.
The medical doctors find out where that radiation is developed.
The medical doctors find out where that radiation is developed.
So they had American soldiers
So they had American soldiers
standing downwind
standing downwind
of a nuclear test.
of a nuclear test.
And then they took brooms
And then they took
and
brooms
swept off the fallout
and swept off the
and
fallout
said they're fine now.
and said they're fine now.
And then they all died of cancer.
And then they all died of cancer.
Not the same year,
But not the same year.
so they could say it wasn't the same cause.
So they could say it wasn't the same cause.
That's a lie too.
That's a lie too.
I met one of the atomic veterans
I met one of the atomic veterans
30-some years ago,
30-some years ago,
6 months before he died of cancer.
6 months before he died of cancer.
He infected his wife and children.
He infected his wife and children.
The people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki
The people of Hiroshima and
had the
Nagasaki
same experience.
had the same experience.
I would recommend a manga,
I would recommend a manga,
which is a Japanese comic book,
which is a Japanese comic book.
called I Saw It,
I saw it.
sometimes called Barefoot Gen.
Sometimes called Barefoot Gen.
It was written and drawn
It was written and drawn
by an eyewitness to Hiroshima.
by an eyewitness to Hiroshima.
It's not an easy comic book to read,
It's not an easy comic book to read,
but it's really good.
but it's really good.
Citizen activism has shut down nuclear plants
Citizen activism shut down nuclear
all
plants
over the world.
all over the world.
So don't think you're not effective.
So don't think you're not
You're
effective.
very effective.
You're very effective.
They wouldn't have shut down the plaza
Shut down the plaza
if they weren't scared of you.
if they weren't scared of you.
You're very effective.
You're very effective.
Information is power.
Information is power.
Japanese officials
Japanese officials
have admitted they needed the plutonium from nuclear plants
they needed the plutonium from nuclear plants
for nuclear weapons.
for nuclear weapons.
Most government officials won't admit that.
Most government officials won't admit that.
Japanese citizens now realize
Japanese citizens now realize
they don't need nuclear power.
they don't need
been off for months.
Those plans have been off for months.
The lights have been on.
The lights have been on.
The Japanese people know they've been hoodwinked by the United States.
The Japanese people know they've been hoodwinked by the United States.
And we United States citizens have been hoodwinked too.
And we United States